Good morning, team. My name's Jim Miller. I'm the Director of Human Resources. We're here to talk to you about what I think is a very important topic, your upcoming PCS moves and how that's affected by stop movement. In the room with me, I have various subject matter experts. I have Mr. Tarbor from LRC. I hope I get your name right. Mr. Louis Pagan, he works in the MPD, and he'll be here to answer any questions you may have specifically about your transition off the installation. Lieutenant Colonel Aaron Parker is here representing the G1, or as the G1 actual, and he has his Sergeant Major with us, Sergeant Major Boyd. We're going to go ahead and use the same format that we did a week ago, and we're going to go straight to the slides. We're going to talk a little bit about what you need to do and what you need to understand in terms of your upcoming PCS move. So without any further delay, I'd like to just go through these. We're working very closely with the Military Personnel Division, with Finance, with Transportation, and other agencies to make sure that your PCS move off the installation post-stop movement is as smooth as possible. We understand some of the concerns that you have in terms of timelines, children in school, household goods pickup, and all those things that may impact your move. And hopefully this discussion today will help you understand a little bit better what we can provide, and especially when it comes to exception to policies and things like that that could impact when you need to move out and when you need to report. Some of the things that you need to know: HRC is working to adjust March and June report dates into July and October. Please pay attention to the following dates. If your old report date was between March and May, your new report date would be mid-July. If your old report date was mid-July, your new report date would be August. If your report date was June, your new report date would be between September and October, especially for those with school-aged children. We are currently producing orders for those folks that were involved with stop movement. We are seeing those assignment instructions in EDAS, TOPMUS, and we are preparing those RFOs, and we're cutting those orders as we speak. So those reassignments are coming in. If you already have assignment instructions and your orders in hand, keep those orders, because there may not be a need to reproduce the orders. We only may be required just to cut an amendment on those orders at that point with your new report date. Some good news: HRC will reflect on your orders that 30-day early report will be authorized, and you also have a 20-day late report window to allow for publication of orders and quarantine requirements at the gaining unit. Now, we have the capacity to continue to reach out to soldiers, even though some of my team is teleworking. We are using Skype, GVS, teleconferencing, and we also have people in the office on a daily basis to assist you with your PCS move. So if you have any issues with your orders being published, any questions you may have, please call in to Mr. Louis Pagan. Louis, could you please provide them your number?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. It is 580-442-3007.
Now, some of the things that we're doing to make your reassignment as easy as possible is online reassignment briefings. So you don't have to come in and physically attend one of those. You can do your reassignment briefing online. Soldiers that are clearing the installation, we are ensuring that most of your clearing can be done electronically, with the exception of 3 or 4 locations, one being transportation, one being CIF, one is finance, and medical is another one that may have to be cleared in person. Soldiers are still required to meet all of the reassignment requirements before their orders are cut. That means you do have to attend a reassignment briefing. If you have a child or family member in the EFMP program, you're required to go through the process of ensuring that the location that you're assigned to can support that child or family member. You must also have time in service remaining. In other words, if you do not have enough time to complete your reassignment, be it a 2-year assignment, 3-year assignment, you will be required to re-enlist to meet the time and service requirement for that assignment. Once that's completed, we will publish your orders and get those to you as fast as we can. So you do have a part in the process. We hope that you get involved with that and make sure that you're doing what you should do on your end, so that when it's time for us, the Military Personnel Division, to cut your orders, you've done everything you need to do, and we have everything we need to publish those orders. At this time, I'm going to shift over to Colonel Parker, and he'd like to talk a little bit about the exception to policies.
This is Lieutenant Colonel Parker. As we were discussing, wanted to say thank you for everyone being present today and providing your input on these topics as we go forward during the current stop move that's out through 30 June. As we were discussing last week in regards to exception to policies and the different types regarding whether they're hardship ETPs or if they're mission essential, I just want to remind everybody as we're going out that, for exception to policies, generally the gaining unit initiates the exception to policy for that service member, and the losing unit conducts that adjudication to highlight that they are clear and good with that soldier departing. So I want to make sure that everyone also understands that when it goes to the different types of ETPs, it really bases off of your command levels. Example, if you are a TRADOC soldier under here at Fort Sill under 434 30th, or a TRADOC element here on installation to include 428 Brigade, then generally your exception to policy will be processed through the FCO G1 and adjudicated through the TRADOC commander for endorsement to the Vice Chief of Staff. If you are an MCOM soldier, then it would go through your MCOM channel G1 through your MCOM 4-star commander to the Vice Chief. If you are a 75th or 31st, example, same thing. So example for 31st Brigade, 88 Brigade, it would go through 32nd AAMDC through that chain G1 4-star, and 3 Corps if you're under 75th. So just to be clear, not all ETPs will be processed depending on what soldier or what command that soldier, command that soldier falls under, will be processed through TRADOC. You'll be processed through your actual MACOM 4-star for the Vice Chief's approval. I will highlight that if you have questions as we get ready to turn to answering those questions that you do have in regards to exception to policies or to include permanent change of station, ensure that you keep in mind that we are here to assist when it comes to answering those questions, as well as providing any additional drill down to assist on the statuses of whatever ETPs that were already processed, at least through the TRADOC channels. So as we go on, want to continue with the, if you're looking at the slide deck now, we're going to transition here to the next slide. When we start talking about in regards to losing stations. So I want to be clear on one other topic. When we talk about the different types of exceptions to policies. Although the ALAR Act 028-2020 kind of highlights the different types, but the current losing station is the station that actually initiates ETPs that are dealing with hardships. And we talked about the different types of hardship ETPs, whether it be you moved out of your current on-post lodging, or you had lease endings, and you're having to be moved, or you're moving out of your current home location, and you're in a hotel type situation while you're undergoing the PCS whole time in the stop move. There are different areas when it comes to your specific type of hardship ETP. So in your actual request, you need to be descriptive in reference to what your current situation is that requires that hardship in order for it to be processed in accordance. Now, there is no defined timeline. And when it comes to submissions of any type of ETP, when it comes to getting them approved, but you need to understand that once we receive those ETPs are processed within a timely manner to at least provide some type of feedback to the service member within at least 48 to 72 hours, depending on where it stands at, if it is at the Vice Chief of Staff of the Army's office pending approval. So as we go out, we're going to transition now to going into some of the questions. So that way we can kind of provide some direct feedback on some of your questions that pertain to these topics.
Thank you, Colonel Parker. Is there any comments, Sprague, that you would like to make in terms of household good pickup or anything of that nature before we go into the questions? All right.
For pickup of household goods and personal property on PCSs, of course, before the end of June, it takes an exception to policy letter to schedule those. However, if you're going OCONUS, we can schedule those 60 days out from your PCS date. For people that's going inside the United States, CONUS transfers, we can schedule those 30 days out. So if your scheduled PCS is, as an example, the end of June, and you're going within CONUS, you can schedule those the 1st of June. If it's going OCONUS, then you can schedule those right now. So that's personal property, and that same goes for POVs and those type things, whole baggage, anything to do with your personal property. For airline tickets and those type things, of course, you have to have a reporting date before we can operate on that. But again, we can schedule those within that time frame that I just mentioned. But anything before the end of June, just keep in mind that it does take an exception to policy.
Thank you, sir. And with that, we'll open it up for some questions. Louis, would you go ahead and take that first one, please?
Good morning, Adi. Your question is, when will WOBC student PCS into Korea will be able to take leave so they are able to relocate their family and household goods before reporting to Korea? So the current guidance is 9 days or less of PCS leave. If you need additional days to move your family members, to relocate them, you have to follow the same procedures as an ETP for PCS move. Again, current guidance is less than 9 days of PCS leave unless you have an ETP to take additional days.
Okay, the next question from Mason. If first unit of assignment is overseas report date is mid-July, can soldiers schedule flight for dependents so they can fly into OCONUS together? Thank you for that question. And that's probably going to impact a lot of folks. Go ahead and answer that one.
The answer to that question is yes, you can schedule those flights if you have a current order, a current report date, and it is after the end of June. And in this case, it's in July. You can come up to Building 4700, passenger travel section, and those folks in there will schedule your travel for your soldier and for the dependents that's traveling with them.
And just to caveat on that a little bit, there are some constraints on travel for first unit of assignment. A lot of that is happening via bus transportation as a cohort. So in some cases, we need to look at the family travel a little bit differently, especially those soldiers that's coming out of the training base, AIT, going to their first units of assignment. So we really need to look at that on a case-by-case basis and get with your command team in terms of when it comes to family members, how that's going to be handled.
Tori, your question is, will PCS leave only be 4 days still in August? Again, the current policy is less than 9 days. If additional days are required, you will have to request those as you're gaining installation. Unless the guidance change, the maximum date that you can take leave, it will be 9 days. Or like I mentioned earlier, if you have an approved ETP, you can take additional days.
Go ahead and answer that.
Danielle, your question is, what is HRC doing for soldiers who do not have the time requirement for deployment to Korea? So I'm assuming you are on one of those units in a Korea rotation. If that's the case, your unit will either keep you in the real detachment, real D, or you can still go to Korea and come back when your ETS day is approaching. So again, you have to work that with the unit. They will make that determination if you're going to deploy with them or not. You need to talk to your chain of command on that. I have seen it in the past where soldiers deploy to Korea and come back before the unit is scheduled to return.
And I'm sure a lot of that will have to do with what your ETS date is and how many months you would be able to serve overseas on that tour. And there may be a requirement, if you're interested in remaining in service, then the re-enlistment option is also available. Tabitha, your question, my husband got his orders yesterday with a report date of 10 July 2020. Do we still report that day, or will his orders be amended? You will report that day. His orders will not need to be amended. Keep in mind that the 10-day leave policy is in effect, so you need to coordinate that as effectively as you can. I think you represent a large number of folks out there, and I really appreciate this particular question because that is why we're here. We really want to make sure that everything that you need is available to you so that you can get out of here by the 10th. And earlier than that because you're taking leave. So we're working with finance. If you have any questions, I'm happy to see that you have your orders in hand. Go ahead and start making those arrangements now with transportation, with finance, starting to clear the installation and those kind of things so that your transition will be as smooth as possible. So the good news is your orders are being published now for that date. And that gives you a significant amount of time to get everything done. Louis?
Yes, and to add to what Mr. Miller just mentioned, so if your report date is between July 1st and the 14th, you will proceed with your assignment instruction. There's no changes to your assignment. So again, if your report date is between July 1st and the 14th, you will report to your duty station according with your PCS orders.
We've been getting a lot of questions on the 10-day leave policy. And I would like to ask Sergeant Major Boyd if he would kind of explain why we are limiting soldiers to a 10-day leave period.
Good afternoon, everybody. Sergeant Major Boyd. Just to clarify, the main reason for the less than 9 days of PCS leave that is authorized is basically so that the individual soldier and family can travel safely from their losing unit to their gaining unit. So essentially, you are basically still under the guidance to travel directly to your gaining unit. The only thing that changes is that you're authorized the minimum amount of days leave so that you can safely travel from the losing unit to the gaining unit. In a nutshell, it's so that you can be covered for line of duty. In the event, God forbid, you get into an accident or something to that effect. So hopefully that clarifies that. And again, I say it's 9 days or less than 9 days, but it really is the amount of travel days that it takes from your losing unit to your gaining unit. So, for instance, if you're coming from Fort Bragg, North Carolina, and you're going to Fort Bliss, and the official travel days to get from point A to point B is 3 days, then that's technically what you should be getting authorized, because that is the amount of days that will safely take you from point A to point B. So it doesn't necessarily mean, hey, I'm putting in for 9 days and because that's the max I can get, I'm taking all of it. It's not necessarily that. It's the minimum amount of days that will cover you safely to travel from point A to point B.
And another thing to think about is that when you do arrive at your gaining unit, you do have the option to take leave at that point and permissive TDY for for house hunting and other things. So don't let the 10 days is not punitive, and it's not the Army picking on you. It's for your safety to get you to your unit of assignment as fast as possible with as least exposure as possible. Keep in mind that once you arrive at your new unit, you can take leave or regular leave. So when you're doing your time sequence, your timeline, and your sequence of events, keep that in mind. So if there's something that you want to do, it may be a little awkward, requiring you to report in 9 days. But once you get to your unit, there are some options that you can use to take some time off and get your family situated at the new unit of assignment.
Okay, this is Lieutenant Colonel Parker. In regards to Tricia Michael's question, can you provide any guidance for TDY 88 Bolic lieutenants? Graduation is set to be 5 June with a report date early July. Will they be required to stay at Fort Sill through 30 June, or will they be able to travel home during this period to pack their home prior to reporting to their first duty station? Bottom line is for Bolic lieutenants, once you complete the Bolic course and you graduate, because you're currently here from your commissioning source to Bolic for your basic course in a TDY status, once you graduate, you will receive permanent change of station orders, which will then take you to your PDS, which is your permanent duty station, which is your first unit of assignment. In this particular case, for the Bolic students, which is different from the CCC, you are allowed to PCS and move out. When it comes to the order time frame, as far as whether or not you're having to stay here to 30 June, that will most likely be a no. but you will still be required the same time frame for travel from here to your duty station. So that's something that will have to be coordinated down with your brigade as well as you're out processing building 4700.
Kevin, I want to read your question. So you have received PCS orders for an Oconus location, and you have your family member listed for command sponsorship. Your question is, will we receive amended command sponsorship order for family members? We will have to restart the process, or will the amendment orders with family members that I have already received will be sufficient? As of right now, we have not received any guidance on soldiers having to complete the family screening. You will use your orders if you have an amendment with a new report date. So those are the orders that you will use to proceed with your PCS move. If the guidance change, we will notify the soldiers that you will have to complete a new screening. But as of this morning, there's no guidance for you to redo the process.
We're going to go ahead and get some additional clarity on that and confirm whether you will or will not have to do additional family screening. Please contact Mr. Louis Pagan at your number, sir.
442-3007.
Yeah, I think that we don't want to leave that open-ended for you. We want to kind of close the loop on that with you and give you a confirmed answer in terms of will your family have to do additional screening or not. So stand by for that. Get with us and we'll walk you through that process and confirm that for you.
Now, if your assignment changed to a different location, if you go into a different installation, yes, it will be required for us to submit a new command sponsorship packet. But like Mr. Miller says, so we will inquire about the information.
So we have a question from Mr. Stephen Watts. Thank you for your question. The question is, can PCSers make an appointment with CIF prior to 30 June to expedite clearing and check box on one of the clearing requirements? I was told appointments are for ETS and retirement only. So yes, absolutely, you can make an appointment. However, at this point, it requires a memorandum from the first 03 in your chain of command. And you can do that up to 30 days prior to your final out date, whether that be final out from the Army or your PCS final out date. If you have any questions, please feel free to call me at 244-3004. It's 3004.
Emily, your question is, are individuals that are on a company tour taking family to home of record are exception to the policy regarding PCS leave? The answer is no. I mean, unless an ETP is approved. I mean, like we have mentioned earlier, leave is restricted to travel from point A to point B. So in this case, I would recommend that an ETP is submitted to assist with the move of your dependent to the home of record.
This is Lieutenant Colonel Parker, Emily. Just a caveat that when we talk about the exception